Right friends, welcome back to the first capsule of 10th week. This is on intellectual property rights and pharmaceutical issues. And here, before going ahead, all of us must be clear about 4 main agreements. These will act as guidelines for framing the agreements in various countries. And the first one is GATT. This is General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Basically, this is for reduction of tariffs and other trade barriers. The first agreement is GATT, and similar agreement for services is GATT's General Agreement on Trade in Services. Similarly, if one looks at intellectual property rights, there is TRIPS, trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, and one looks at investments, trade related investment measures. So, the relations, or you can say the economic relations between one country to other country, especially in the present day era of globalization, one should look at smooth flow of goods, services, at the same time investments, without affecting the intellectual property rights. So, that is the basic crux of these 4 main agreements, and domestic countries will devise their rules and regulations subject to the general framework of these agreements. So, before going ahead, what is meant by intellectual property? Intellectual property means if something is created out of the mind, what type of things can be created? A new invention can be there, a new literary work can be there, artistic work can be there, new design can be there, at the same time new image can be there, and these has to be protected. These have to be protected. So, for that, countries frame intellectual property guidelines. Intellectual property, mainly I have shown 3 issues here. What is the meaning of patent? What is the meaning of copyright as well as a trademark? And countries should devise rules and regulations to protect the creators, whoever created a new invention. At the same time, whoever created a new literary or artistic work like books, paintings, films, databases, at the same time various logos. Airtel logo is different from Reliance Jio logo. So, these are all comes under trademarks. So, patents, copyrights, trademarks, at the same time geographical indications, all these are to be protected, and normally patents are valid for 20 years. So, various countries will devise laws subject to this trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. That is the main agreement of WTO, and countries devise their own agreements subject to the domestic laws. And if you look at our country, the nodal authority for intellectual property, that means if I invent something, I should be given exclusive right for some period, say 20 years. So, this aspect is looked after by CGPDTM. This is the Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks, and this is based in Mumbai. This is under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, specifically Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. So, CGPDTM looks after the grant of patents, designs, trademarks, geographical indications, etc. And these are based on the given acts here. So, India nodal authority is CGPDTM, which is under the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, that is Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Then, if you look at specifically, there are some organizations also. Basically, all these patents, designs, trademarks, GI Act, these are looked after basically by CGPDTM, as I have told you, but there are some small exceptions like integrated circuits layout. This is approved by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. At the same time, protection of plant varieties. So, these are under the Ministry of Agriculture. So, except these exceptions, most of the things, especially when it comes to patents, designs, trademarks, they are approved by CGPDTM. right? You are clear up to this extent. So, let us look at pharmaceutical issues. Basically, the first one is people, especially Western countries, are not happy about compulsory licensing. Though Patents Act protects the interests of the investors, the invention must be available to the common people. The invention should not be the exclusive right of very few rich people. So, keeping that in mind, this compulsory licensing clause is there. So, what is meant by compulsory licensing? Before understanding that, you have to look at one pharmaceutical company, multinational chemical, pharma and life sciences company. This is based in Germany, that is Bayer. We have to go back to 2008. It invented a drug for kidney cancer patients or liver cancer patients. The drug name is Nexavar 200 mg. It invented, it is a nice thing, no doubt about it, but it was selling in 2008 at rupees 2.8 lakh per 120 tablets. 120 tablets are required for a month dose. So, for a month 120 tablets are required. So, the cost they used to charge is 2.8 lakh, 2 lakh 80,000. And the fundamental question is, they invented something, but why they are charging such exorbitant prices? Are they available to the common man? Are they within the reach of common man? So, these are the questions to be answered. So, to answer that question, in our country, for the first time, Indian government has gone for compulsory licensing. So, for the first time, compulsory licensing was granted. As I have already told you, the purpose of a patent, granting the patent rights for inventions, is basically, it is to benefit public. Whatever invention you are making, it should benefit the public. It should not be at exorbitant prices. Sometimes pharmaceutical companies may sell somewhat higher prices for new drug inventions because they have to spend a lot of money on research and development. But in this particular case, Bayer was not revealing research and development cost also. The unfortunate aspect is Bayer was not revealing R&D cost. At the same time, it was selling at rupees 2.8 lakhs per 120 tablets. So, basically patents are given to protect invention. However, the drug, as a matter of fact, any particular thing invented must be available at reasonable price to the public. Patents are granted to benefit inventions to the public, not for their own sake. So, if somebody is violating these things, there is a provision in Indian Patents Act, that is compulsory licensing. So, only once India used this compulsory licensing. And what is the meaning of compulsory licensing? Meaning of compulsory licensing is to make it available at reasonable prices. Here, member countries can grant compulsory licensing to make medicines cheaply available to the public. So, for the first time, compulsory licensing was granted by India, and it was given to Natco Pharma Limited, and they manufactured this product, which is used for kidney cancer patients as well as liver cancer patients, and they started selling at rupees 8,800 per pack. You see the difference between 2.8 lakhs and rupees 8,800. Natco in return will pay royalty of 7% to Bayer. That is different story. So, compulsory licensing can be given when the invented product is not useful to the public at large, and when it becomes exclusive prerogative of few people, right? So, India granted only once, and this is original invented product, and this is sorafenib tosylate. This is the name of the actual chemical, and that is manufactured by Natco Pharma Limited, right? So, compulsory licensing What about compulsory licensing as per TRIPS? As per TRIPS agreement of WTO, compulsory licensing is allowed under clause 31 if certain criteria is met. Normally, patents are valid up to 20 years and compulsory licensing can be given if certain criteria is met, that is as per TRIPS agreement. And if you look at India Patents Act of 1970, as per section 84 of Indian Patents Act of 1970, compulsory licensing can be granted after expiry of 3 years of the grant of the patent. So, after 3 years after the grant of the patent, compulsory licensing can be given. There are 3 conditions. The 3 conditions are: reasonable requirements of public have not met. In this particular case, when they were selling at 2,80,000 rupees per 120 tablets, a month's dose costing rupees 2,80,000. So, the first condition has met. The second one is patented invention is not available to the public at affordable price. In this particular case, this is also true. Then patented invention is not worked in the territory of India. So, subject to the 3 conditions, this compulsory licensing was granted, but because of the pressure from multinational foreign pharmaceutical companies, India is going slow on compulsory licensing. There were news reports that India recently has given confirmation to foreign firms, basically to attract investments, that India will go slow on compulsory licensing. If India goes slow on compulsory licensing, then who will be benefited? The beneficiaries will be US drug manufacturers, including Europe. But the biggest disadvantage is domestic manufacturers of drugs may not be in a position to manufacture generic drugs. So, health care for diseases like cancer may become out of reach for common people, and more exploitation by foreign drug manufacturers may take place, and hence common man will be at the disadvantageous position. So, overall it appears government is going slow on compulsory licensing. In fact, unofficially, they confirmed to the foreign drug manufacturers also that India will go slow on compulsory licensing. Probably the government's intention is to attract investments, to attract more investments into the country. But the other side, if you look at it, these medicines may not be available to the common man, and common man may not be able to get treatment for diseases like cancer, right? So, this is one compulsory licensing issue. Though India used this only once, foreign firms, especially pharmaceutical firms, always talk about compulsory licensing before sending their investments into our country, right? And the another important aspect is our generic medicines are basically treating AIDS patients in Africa. So, India has to look at this aspect, and so as to take medicines to the reach of the common man, sometimes compulsory licensing may be required. India should not succumb to the pressure of foreign multinationals. Then second point is compulsory licensing and exemption for experiments. In fact, Delhi High Court recently allowed NATCO, which manufactured this generic version of the cancer drug. In fact, Delhi High Court recently allowed NATCO to export its version of sorafenib tosylate for experimental purposes. So, as per Indian Patents Act 107A, generic companies can use limited quantities of their version for R&D. So, you may have a doubt what is meant by generic. Generic means with the original composition name without brand name. If the medicines are manufactured, they are called generic medicines. So, here this is generic medicine sorafenib tosylate, what we discussed some time ago, right. So, here this exemption for experiments was also clarified by Delhi High Court. The third one is evergreening of patents. What is the meaning of evergreening? Normally, the schedule or time of patents is available up to certain period, maybe 20 years or so. And what the foreign multinational companies are doing, they are coming up with very small changes. Previously, there was some drug is there. What they will do? They will do small change and they will come up with some new product name and they will ask for patent for again 10-20 years. So, this type of things are coming up, and Indian Patent Act, section 3D of the Indian Patent Act, that prohibits all these things. So, foreign companies are not happy with the 3D of Indian Patents Act. Foreign companies normally come up with new patents by making small changes in the existing drugs, and the name given to this is evergreening of patents. Section 3D in Indian Patents Act blocks innovation by preventing patent protection on known chemical substances. So, the section prevents multiple patents on the known substance. So, it prevents in a nutshell when the foreign companies are coming up with small incremental changes so as to make it as a new invention. So, this section 3D of Indian Patents Act prevents that. So, this is known as section 3D prevents evergreening of patents. So, foreign companies are not happy with this also. Then the next one is data exclusivity. Here, it is a kind of intellectual property protection where the clinical data, the data while the original manufacturer used for getting the approval, so the original data as well as clinical trial data submitted by the original drug manufacturer cannot be used by a drug regulatory authority to approve a generic version. To approve a generic version, this original manufacturer's clinical trial data cannot be used by any other generic manufacturer. This is data exclusivity. At present, as per Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940, the data exclusivity is 4 years. Now, there is lot of pressure from foreign countries to extend it to 10 years because after 4 years, generic manufacturer can directly get approval from state regulatory authority. Now, the foreign companies are not happy with this. They want data exclusivity to be extended to 10 years. So, the data exclusivity of 4 years as per Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940, this is also not acceptable to foreign companies. So, against India, the main irr of the foreign companies is, one is compulsory licensing, though India used only once, but that is the main grudge of foreign companies against India. Second one is this evergreening of patents. One particular section of our Patents Act prevents evergreening. Then third one is data exclusivity. This is at present 4 years. The meaning is, after 4 years, a generic manufacturer can use the same data and get approval from state regulatory authority. They want it to be extended to 10 years. So, as to eliminate the manufacturing of generic drugs before 10 years. So, these issues are the main reason of the foreign companies to complain against India, and all of you are familiar with Special 301 report. This Special 301 report is with regard to evaluating intellectual property protection and enforcement in various countries. In various countries, this Special 301 report evaluates intellectual property protection and enforcement, and based on the inadequacy of intellectual property protection and enforcement, it categorizes into two. One is priority foreign country, second one is priority watch list. This year, Special 301 report is expected in the month of April. And as per last year report, India is placed in priority watch list. So, here priority foreign country, priority watch list. So here priority foreign country is USA will initiate unilateral measures like suspension of trade concessions in case of failure of negotiations. This is priority foreign country, and India is in priority watch list, which means bilateral attention will increase concerning problem areas. So overall, Special 301 report is the tactic engaged by United States of America to put pressure on developing countries, right? After listening to this topic, in fact, India's protection as far as compulsory licensing is concerned, then data exclusivity, at the same time the other one, that is evergreening of patents, these three are very much required from Indian perspective, because multinational pharmaceutical firms, what they are doing in the name of invention, even for incremental change also, they are coming up with new patents and selling the drugs at exorbitantly high prices, right? So these are the issues pertaining to pharmaceutical sector in our country, why foreign countries are not happy with our country. So with this, let us conclude this capsule. Have a nice day. Thank you.